reporting to duty during the attack. As a small group, we moved along the waterfront and piers, collecting men who had been left ashore by the rescue boats and whose bodies and clothing were streaked and saturated with harbor oil. We assisted them to the nearby dispensary, conveniently located midway along the waterfront. There, we left them outside on the pavement for attention by corpsmen, nurses, and physicians. Those beyond assistance, and there were many, were moved to another location and left once more for others to pick up. I have no memory of how long we labored while the attack continued. Much later, I learned that the attack involved 420 enemy planes, lasted for something over 2 hours, and was supported by the 6 newest aircraft carriers of the Jap Navy. I have no recollection of stopping for even a drink of water or a bite of food, and too soon I was smeared like all the rest with fuel oil, salt water, and blood. Many of those beyond assistance were by way of separate body parts: a trouser leg containing part of a blown-off leg, a shirt with a severed arm remaining. Bodies with catastrophic wounds and burned beyond any hope of recognition were so hard to take that some of the labor shop who could not take the rescue work assignment were put to work elsewhere. I remained part of the original crew and continued picking up survivors and getting them to the dispensary triage area, which now contained a line of trucks and ambulances loading and moving the injured on to medical facilities beyond the shipyard. Oklahoma, after taking many hits, slowly began turning over as crewmen abandoned ship, diving or sliding into the water. Finally, Oklahoma rested upside down, her huge side propeller sticking up above the oil-blackened and flamed like water. By now, Pearl Harbor was a hell pit of smoke, gray, brown, white, lemon yellow, black, and all acrid and foul. Flaming, mushrooming billows were erupting skyward, folding in, and then opening out, creating a mass of storm clouds and predicting the horrors to come. Out of all this pall came the indescribable sight of the battleship Nevada, underway and heading into the channel, with a hole the size of a house in her bow, torn flag waving defiantly off her stern, trying for the open sea. Like the crows after an ear of corn, the jet plane swarmed after her, intent on stopping her great mass and sinking her in place, thus totally blocking the channel opening to the sea. Coming in close alongside, the captain of the destroyer Allen screamed across to Nevada. "SINCPAC orders you to beach your ship and keep the channel clear." He screamed himself hoarse until finally heard. Nevada acknowledged and changed course, successfully ground to a halt as ordered, all the while being battered and taking casualties from enemy aircraft. My next solid recollection concerns what happened after dark. By that time, I had cleaned up with solvent, soap and hot water, and changed into dry clothing, Galleys of serviceable ships were now open and fully manned around the clock. Battleships, under normal conditions, fed over 1,000 men each day. Now they prepared to feed anyone, military and civilian, who came aboard. Heavy cruisers operated their galleys in similar manner, and even destroyers had coffee and sandwiches at all times for anyone going through the chow line. Flooding the dry dock. 2 others and myself were pulled out of our crew. We were to open one of the flooding gates of the new, newly constructed dry dock. The dry dock structure was complete, except for placing the reinforcing steel and pouring the massive concrete floor. It was decided that flooding the dry dock full would make it much harder to destroy. Why they picked me, God only knows. I had never been in a dry dock and had no idea how to operate it. Someone gave a verbal description of the descending stairwell and of the steel, watertight doors which had to be undogged to open and then properly closed and dogged behind us to be watertight. I was briefed on what the manual control room looked like 50 feet below, given a sketch of manual levers to release, and told how to turn the 4-foot diameter steel wheel. This would open one of the flooding gates of the flooding tunnel and allow full flow of seawater into the tunnel and thence into the dry dock. In retrospect, I realized that being still under construction, and even in these circumstances, the dry dock was controlled by the contractor. Shipyard personnel would take over operation only after the structure was completed, inspected, and accepted by the Navy. Contractor personnel being absent, there were only a few civilians who had been in the structure, and no one knew their whereabouts. No electric power was available, so with powerful battery lights in hand, we proceeded down the enclosed stairwell and into the small, compact control room. As instructions dictated, the proper levers were released